The Swiss Army operates on land, in the air, and in international waters. Under the country's militia system, professional soldiers constitute about 5% of the military and the rest are conscripts or volunteers aged 19 to 34. Because of Switzerland's long history of neutrality, the army does not take part in armed conflicts in other countries, but it does participate in international peacekeeping missions. Switzerland is part of the NATO Partnership for Peace program. The structure of the Swiss militia system stipulates that the soldiers keep their own personal equipment, including all personally assigned weapons, at home. Compulsory military service concerns all male Swiss citizens, with women serving voluntarily. Males usually receive initial orders at the age of 18 for military conscription eligibility screening. About two-thirds of young Swiss men are found suitable for service, while alternative service exists for those found unsuitable. Annually, approximately 20,000 persons are trained in basic training for a duration from 18 to 21 weeks. The Reform Army 21 was adopted by popular vote in 2003. It replaced the previous model, Army 95, reducing manpower from 400,000 to about 200,000 personnel, 120,000 receiving periodic military training and 80,000 reservists who have completed their total military training requirements. History. The Swiss Army originated from the cantonal troops of the old Swiss Confederacy, called upon in cases of external threats by the Tagsatzung or by the canton in distress. In the Federal Treaty of 1815, the Tagsatzung prescribed cantonal troops to put a contingent of 2% of the population of each canton at the Federation's disposition, amounting to a force of some 33,000 men. The cantonal armies were converted into the Federal Army with the Constitution of 1848. From this time, it was illegal for the individual cantons to declare war or to sign capitulations or peace agreements. Paragraph 13 explicitly prohibited the Federation from sustaining a standing army, and the cantons were allowed a maximum standing force of 300 each. Paragraph 18 declared the obligation of every Swiss citizen to serve in the Federal Army if conscripted, setting its size at 3% of the population plus a reserve of 1½ that number, amounting to a total force of some 80,000. The first complete mobilization, under the command of Hans Herzog, was triggered by the Franco-Prussian War in 1871. In 1875, the army was called in to crush a strike of workers at the Gotthard Tunnel. 4 workers were killed and 13 were severely wounded. Paragraph 19 of the revised Constitution of 1874 extended the definition of the Federal Army to every able-bodied male citizen, swelling the size of the army from under 150,000 to more than 700,000, with population growth during the 20th century rising further to some 1.5 million, the second largest armed force per capita after the Israeli Defense Forces. A major maneuver commanded in 1912 by Ulrich Will, a reputed Germanophile, convinced visiting European heads of state, in particular Kaiser Wilhelm II, of the efficacy and determination of Swiss defences. Will was subsequently put in command of the Second Complete Mobilization in 1914, and Switzerland escaped invasion in the course of World War I. Will also ordered the suppression of the 1918 general strike with military force. 3 workers were killed, and a rather larger number of soldiers died of the Spanish flu during mobilization. In 1932, the army was called to suppress an anti-fascist demonstration in Geneva. The troops shot dead 13 demonstrators, wounding another 65. This incident long damaged the army's reputation, leading to persistent calls for its abolition among left-wing politicians. In both the 1918 and the 1932 incidents, the troops deployed were consciously selected from rural regions such as the Berner Oberland, fanning the enmity between the traditionally conservative rural population and the urban working class. The third complete mobilization of the army took place during World War II under the command of Henry Guisen. The Territorial Days Glaciers race, created to test the abilities of soldiers, was created during the war. In the 1960s and 1970s, the armed forces were organized according to the Army 61 structure. Since 1989, there have been several attempts to curb military activity or even abolish the armed forces altogether. A notable referendum on the subject was held on the 26th of November 1989 and, although defeated, did see a significant percentage of the voters in favor of such an initiative. However, a similar referendum, called for before, but held shortly after the September 11 attacks in 2001 in the U.S., was defeated by over 77% of voters. In 1989, the status of the Army as a national icon was shaken by a popular initiative aiming at its complete dissolution, receiving 35.6% support. This triggered a series of reforms and, in 1995, the number of troops was reduced to 400,000. Article 58.1 of the 1999 Constitution repeats that the Army is, in principle, organized as a militia, implicitly allowing a small number of professional soldiers. A second initiative aimed at the Army's dissolution in late 2001 received a mere 21.9% support. Nevertheless, the Army was shrunk again in 2004, to 220,000 men, including the reserves. Structure. The armed forces consist of 134,886 people on active duty, of which 4,230 are professionals, with the rest being conscripts or volunteers. Women, for whom military service is voluntary, numbered 1,050, less than 1% of the total, but 25% of career soldiers. Once decided to serve, they have the same rights and duties as their male colleagues, and they can join all services, including combat units. Recruits are generally instructed in their native language. However, the small number of Romansh-speaking recruits are instructed in German. In contrast to most other comparable armies, officer candidates are usually not career regulars. After 7 weeks of basic training, selected recruits are offered the possibility of a cadre function. Officer candidate schools take place separately from NCO's training, but NCOs have the possibility of becoming officers later on. There are currently 17,506 officers and 22,650 NCOs in the Swiss Armed Forces. Those of higher rank serve for more time each year. An ordinary soldier may serve 365 days over 30 years, while a high-ranking officer may serve 2,000 before retiring. Each promotion requires more time, which is known as paying your grade. Companies subsidize military training by continuing to pay their employees, who list their ranks and responsibilities on their recruit High Command. In peacetime, the armed forces are led by the Chief of the Armed Forces, who reports to the head of the Federal Department of Defense, Civil Protection and Sports and to the Swiss Federal Council as a whole. The current Chief of the Armed Forces is Lieutenant General André Blattmann. Lt. Gen. Blattmann replaced Lieutenant General Roland Neff, who resigned on 25 July 2008 following allegations of sexual harassment. In times of crisis or war, the Federal Assembly elects a full general as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. The rank is distinct and particular, as it is associated exclusively with wartime fighting or a national crisis due to wartime fighting among the neighbors on the border. In addition, in Switzerland the word general itself is distinct and particular, as the subordinate appointments a general officer status omit the word itself. Throughout Swiss history, there have only been 4 officers formally designated as general: Henry IV, Sonderbund War, and 1856–57, Neuchâtel Crisis; Hans Herzog, Franco-Prussian War; Ulrich Will, World War I; Henry Geisen, World War II. In Switzerland, the word general is reserved for the wartime, or emergency, commander-in-chief. So the subordinate officers who would have had the title of general in other armies have alternative designations to describe the appointment. of 8, Corps Commandant or Commandant de Corps, of 7, Divisionaire or Divisionaire, of 6, Brigadier. The distinctive feature of their rank insignia are traditionally stylized Edelweiss rank insignia. One exception, however, is that when Swiss officers are involved in peacekeeping missions abroad, they are often given temporary ranks that do not exist in the Swiss army, to give them rank styles readily understood by foreign officers. For example, the head of the Swiss delegation at the NNSC in Korea had a rank of Major General. Land Forces. Under Army 61, the land forces were organized into Field Army Corps 1, 2, and 4, and Mountain Army Corps 3. This structure was superseded by the Army 95, and thereafter the Army 21 structures. Since the Army 21 reform in 2004, the basic structure of the land forces has been reorganized in the following units: Infantry Brigades, Mountain Infantry Brigades, Armored Brigades. Additionally, 2 large reserve brigades exist. 4 territorial regions link the land forces with the cantons by coordinating territorial tasks inside of their sector and are immediately responsible for the security of their regions, depending only on the decisions of the Federal Council. The territorial regions have their headquarters located as follows: Territorial Region 1 Morges, Territorial Region 2 Kriens, Territorial Region 3, and Territorial Region 4. According to Commons, Territorial Region 3 includes Emergency Aid Battalion 3, and Engineer Battalions 9, 12, and 24. The formations of the land forces. The Swiss land forces are organized into the following all-arms brigades: the Armored Brigades, Armored Brigade 1 Command Support Battalion 1 Reconnaissance Battalion 1 Armored Battalion 12 Armored Battalion 17 Armored Battalion 18 Infantry Battalion 16 Artillery Battalion 1 Armored Engineer Battalion 1 Armored Brigade 11 Command Support Battalion 11 Reconnaissance Battalion 11 Armored Battalion 13 Armored Battalion 14 Mechanized Infantry Battalion 29 Infantry Battalion 61 Artillery Battalion 16 Armored Engineer Battalion 11. During 2010, the Armored and Mechanized Infantry Battalions were restructured as Combined Arms Battalions, as from the 1st of January 2011. Each had a staff company, a logistics company, 2 tank companies and 2 mechanized infantry companies equipped with infantry fighting vehicles. The Infantry Brigades: Infantry Brigade 2 Command Support Battalion 2 Reconnaissance Battalion 2 Rifle Battalion 1 Infantry Battalion 13 Rifle Battalion 14 Infantry Battalion 19 Artillery Battalion 54 Infantry Brigade 5 Command Support Battalion 5 Reconnaissance Battalion 5 Infantry Battalion 11 Infantry Battalion 20 Infantry Battalion 56 Infantry Battalion 97 Artillery Battalion 10. The Mountain Infantry Brigades: Mountain Infantry Brigade 9 Command Support Battalion 9 Mountain Infantry Battalion 7 Mountain Infantry Battalion 17 Mountain Infantry Battalion 29 Mountain Infantry Battalion 30 Mountain Infantry Battalion 48 Artillery Battalion 49 Mountain Infantry Brigade 12 Command Support Battalion 12 Mountain Rifle Battalion 6 Infantry Battalion 65 Infantry Battalion 70 Mountain Infantry Battalion 77 Mountain Infantry Battalion 85 Fortress Artillery Battalion 13 The Reserve Brigades: Infantry Brigade 7 Command Support Battalion 7 ISTAR Reconnaissance Battalion 7 Reconnaissance Battalion 9 Reconnaissance Battalion 12 Mechanized Infantry Battalion 8 Mechanized Infantry Battalion 28 Infantry Battalion 54 Infantry Battalion 60 Mountain Infantry Battalion 72 Infantry Battalion 73 Mountain Infantry Battalion 91 Artillery Battalion 47 Mountain Brigade 10 Command Support Battalion 10 Reconnaissance Battalion 4 Reconnaissance Battalion 10 Armored Battalion 15 Mechanized Infantry Battalion 20 Rifle Battalion 5 Mountain Infantry Battalion 8 Mountain Infantry Battalion 10 Infantry Battalion 24 Infantry Battalion 36 Artillery Battalion 32 Artillery Battalion 41 Air Force. The Swiss Air Force has been traditionally a militia-based service, including its pilots, with an inventory of approximately 456 aircraft whose lengthy service lives overlapped several eras. However, beginning with its separation from the Army in 1996, the Air Force has been downsizing. It now has a strength of approximately 270 fixed and rotary wing aircraft, and is moving towards a smaller, more professional force. The primary frontline air defense fleet consists of 32 F-18 Hornets organized into 3 squadrons along with 54 F-5 Tiger IIs. In October 2008, the Swiss Hornet fleet reached the 50,000 flight hour milestone. A report in the Swiss news magazine Fax reveals that the Swiss Air Force provides ready-to-take-off aircraft only during office hours on working days. The Air Force staff declared that, due to financial limits, they are not operational all the time. The difficulty of defending Swiss airspace is illustrated by the mountainous character and the small size of the country. The maximum extension of Switzerland is 348 kilometers, a distance that can be flown in a little over 20 minutes by commercial aircraft. Furthermore, Switzerland's policy of neutrality means that they are unlikely to be deployed elsewhere. Intelligence gathering. The Swiss military department maintains the Onyx intelligence gathering system, similar to but much smaller than the International Echelon system. The Onyx system was launched in 2000 in order to monitor both civil and military communications, such as telephone, fax or internet traffic carried by satellite. It was completed in late 2005 and currently consists of 3 interception sites, all based in Switzerland. In a way similar to Echelon, Onyx uses lists of keywords to filter the intercepted content for information of interest. On 8 January 2006, the Swiss newspaper Sonntagsblick published a secret report produced by the Swiss government using data intercepted by Onyx. The report described a fax sent by the Egyptian Department of Foreign Affairs to the Egyptian Embassy in London, and described the existence of secret detention facilities run by the CIA in Central and Eastern Europe. The Swiss government did not officially confirm the existence of the report, but started a judiciary procedure for leakage of secret documents against the newspaper on 9 January 2006. Lakes Flotilla. Several sizable lakes which lie across international borders are patrolled by a flotilla of military patrol boats. This maritime branch of the Army not only maintains the patrols but also serve in a search and rescue role. During the Second World War, Switzerland fielded the Type 41 class of patrol boats, armed with an anti-tank gun and dual machine guns. 9 units were commissioned between 1941 and 1944. These boats were upgraded in 1964, notably receiving radars, radios and modern armament, and were kept in service into the 1980s, the last being decommissioned in late 1983. The contemporary force utilizes the Aquarius-class riverine patrol boats, which are operated by Motorboat Company 10 of the Corps of Engineers and which patrol Lakes Geneva, Lucerne, Lugano, Maggiore and Constance. Conscription. Switzerland has mandatory military service for all able-bodied male citizens, who are conscripted when they reach the age of majority, though women may volunteer for any position. People determined unfit for service, where fitness is defined as satisfying physically, intellectually and psychological requirements for military service or civil protection service and being capable of accomplishing these services without harming oneself or others, are exempted from service but pay a 3% additional annual income tax until the age of 30, unless they are affected by a disability. Almost 20% of all conscripts were found unfit for military or civilian service in 2008. The rate is generally higher in urban cantons such as Zurich and Geneva than in the rural ones. Swiss citizens living abroad are generally exempted from conscription in time of peace, while dual citizenship by itself does not grant such exemption. On the 22nd of September 2013, a referendum was held that aimed to abolish conscription in Switzerland, with a turnout of 47.0% on this particular question. Over 73% voted against eliminating conscription. Roles. The prime role of the Swiss armed forces is home defense. Switzerland is not part of any multinational war-fighting structure, but individual armed forces members do take part in international missions. Peacekeeping overseas. Operating from a neutral country, Switzerland's army does not take part in armed conflicts in other countries. However, over the years, the Swiss Army has been part of several peacekeeping missions around the world. From 1996 to 2001, the Swiss Army was present in Bosnia and Herzegovina with headquarters in Sarajevo. Its mission, part of the Swiss peacekeeping missions. The mission was named SHQSU, standing for Swiss Headquarters Support Unit to BIH. It was composed of 50 to 55 elite Swiss soldiers under contract for 6 to 12 months. None of the active soldiers were armed during the duration of the mission. The Swiss soldiers were recognized among the other armies present on the field by their distinctive yellow beret. The SHQSU is not the same as the more publicized Swisscoi, which is the Swiss Army mission to Kosovo. Switzerland is part of the Neutral Nations Supervisory Commission, which was created to monitor the armistice between North and South Korea. Since the responsibilities of the NNSC have been much reduced over the past few years, only 5 people are still part of the Swiss delegation, which is located near the Korean DMZ.